in that sense, everything from the Kabbalistic perspective is alive. Everything is alive. This table here, as we've talked about before, is as alive, even though we may call it an inanimate object. Mm-hmm. But it is alive. And the person who designed the table, constructed it, they're still in here. Their energy, their thought process, their feelings, it's still in this table. It's as much a part of the table as the wood. So, in a sense, the upper sphirot never get lost. They're still there. Now, this was what you have in front of you is a little test that was given to a boy who was in Hebrew school. And the teacher was asking them to write the word chai, which means alive, next to any of these things that are alive. So he looked at the list, and these are obviously words in Hebrew, but he looked at the list, and he put down alive next to 1 was father, 4 is fish, 10 is child, 11 is dog, etc. And then he wound up putting down next to number 22, Torah. And he said the Torah is alive. The teacher marked this wrong. And then made a mistake, which was that she actually, kind of used him as an example in the class of how not to think. Why did you think the Torah is alive? And he had an explanation, but she said, well, that's wrong. So he came in to see me. His mom brought me in to have a little discussion with him about this, and I looked at the list, and I said to him, well, actually, if I look at all 22, I'd say all 22 are alive. There's not one of them that isn't alive. So I would have gotten a lot more wrong than you did. So we went through and discussed things like candle, or king, or charity. That in fact all of these things are alive. And of course the Torah is alive. Mm-hmm. But his argument was beautiful. He said, I learned that God created the Torah. Now God's alive, so therefore, if God created the Torah, then the Torah must be alive. That was his thought process.
I like to think about the life of wine, how it's a living thing. I like to think about what was going on the year the grapes were growing, how the sun was shining if it rained. I like to think about all the people who tended and picked the grapes, and if it is an old wine, how many of them must be dead by now. I like how wine continues to evolve. Like if I opened a bottle of wine today, it would taste different today than if I'd open it on any other day, because a bottle of wine is actually alive. It is constantly evolving and gaining complexity. That is until it peaks.
Mm-hmm. So even at the end of her quote, when she says, until it peaks, that's just about complexity. It's not about aliveness or deadness.
Right.
Now again, can you imagine really experiencing the world the way that she's describing? Yeah. I mean, I don't know when she's drinking a cup of orange juice, but when she's drinking a fine wine, this is what she begins to think about. Yeah.
Well, I think what you're teaching is that we can be encouraged to take moments of that kind of awareness. I mean, the question that I always have is, what would happen if you had moments to moments to moments of that kind of awareness? You would be in a different relation to the finite, right?
Yes. So again, that is actually the point of this, which is that whenever we enter the finite, the material world, all of a sudden we begin to see up the tree of life and begin to see its aliveness in a new way. And that's what she's saying. How did this bottle of wine come into existence? Well, we take it for granted. We went to the store, we bought it, now we're drinking it. Done. Yeah. And we can make a blessing over it. We can be aware of it as a gift. But now we're entering a new way of understanding, which is it's also alive.
Well, and that aspect of it's a creation. It was created, but it's still being created. The creation is not a finite thing either. It's always creating, being created, or in the process.
And even after you drink it,
Yeah.
that the process of that wine hasn't stopped.
Right.